Thanks for jumping into the Weekend Rewind. Hey, today is an episode that I'm featuring a guest from high school. And no, we're not talking about the good old days. I'm here to talk about what has happened since for this guy because, wow, it's been phenomenal. And so I don't want to give too much away, but my guest today is Pita Taufatofua. I'll introduce him more in a second. This is a replay of an episode from a few years ago talking about what has happened in his life, becoming like a dual Olympian, representing his country at both Winter and Summer Olympics, and breaking the internet, breaking Twitter during a really famous opening ceremony. Enjoy the episode, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. I graduated in the year 2000, and we didn't have a 20-year reunion because #COVID, but I did love attending the 10-year reunion back in 2010. What I discovered attending that reunion is that people from high school really hadn't fundamentally changed. All really, I guess what had happened in my observation is that people had just become bigger and more better, maybe more comfortable versions of who they already were. The reason I'm sharing that with you today is because my guest today was from my year at high school. In fact, he was my date at the year 12 netball dinner. And since then, wow, he has gone on to do bigger things like in fact, even when I say that, much bigger things is a huge understatement for what this guy has done. His name is Pita Taufatofua. And before I jump into his intro, I just want to share the first paragraph of an article about him that was published in The Guardian, as I believe this gives great context on what he's about. When Pita Taufatofua began the walk towards the stadium at the 2016 Rio Olympics opening ceremony, he was an unknown, unrated athlete from an obscure Pacific island. He would walk back out a global celebrity. Had it not been for a vat of coconut oil and his flair for flag bearing, he could have passed through the Olympic Games unnoticed and unreported. I think that's a nice little tease into the conversation because in this chat, Peter gives us the best behind the scenes description of what actually happened that night at the Rio Olympic ceremony that changed his life in an exponential way. This conversation is also like a TED Talk. Peter is a Tongan athlete in Taekwondo and cross-country skiing. In fact, he's represented these sports 3 times across Summer and Winter Olympics. He's a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador for the Pacific and Team Samsung Galaxy athlete who lives in Brisbane, Australia. He's also the founder of Tonga Strong and has a passion in helping provide opportunities for the youth of the Pacific. Onto the show. It's so good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while. I've been meaning to come on, but I've just been had other directions.
Well, I know. I mean, you've had. It's so funny just seeing the interviews that you've done. You've been on Good Morning America. You were on Kevin Hart's show and Snoop Dogg. That's super cool. Harry Connick Jr. Today it's got to be a breakthrough moment in Brisbane in this podcast. I mean, how are you feeling? You must be pretty nervous.
I wish everyone could see my hand. It's trembling right now.
Thanks so much for the compliment. I love that, for playing into it. Peter, it's been 22 years since we graduated high school. And before we hit record, we were just quickly talking about life and decades and time passing by and expectations. And you sort of reflected and said, oh, wow, yeah, life is very different for you. I was reading an article The Guardian wrote about you. It's such a great article. I think it's 2019. I was talking about this moment where at your first Olympics in Rio, there was an opportunity and you were told that you weren't really allowed to wear the traditional attire of Tonga, but you went ahead and did it anyway. Can you talk us through that moment, what you were thinking when you had that decision point?
I went through a lot of life following rules, following what everyone else was telling me to do. And you kind of you should reach a point where you start questioning things, right? And you start off by questioning your parents and what they told you and where they got it from. But so that moment was, I was told that I couldn't wear the traditional attire. I had to wear a suit and a tie. And mind you, I don't mind a good suit and tie, but for this moment, I thought, you're about to walk in front of the world as a national representative to represent a nation that hasn't been around for 60, 70 years, right? But that's been around for 1,000 years. 50, 70 years, if we were just a new nation, maybe I'll, fall in line and put on the suit and tie. But I went, that doesn't make sense to me because still in Tonga, we still dress up traditionally. You go to any Polynesian island, anywhere in the Pacific, you see people in national dress when they're doing traditional things. So why would I, in my head, why would I not do that? It just didn't make sense. But then I've got these authorities telling me, you can't do it. You have to be like everyone else. I said, the reason I'm here at the Olympics is because I'm not like anyone else in the way I think, right? Anyone could be here if they think that, in a certain way. But thinking differently is part of the reason I got here, and I was able to overcome my own hurdles to get here after years and years of trying. And so we had the national dress. My coach and myself, we were in on it. So we had it. And at the Rio Olympics, you had on every corner, the media didn't show this, on every corner you had machine gun soldiers, right? Within the Olympic Village, which is something you don't see at Olympic villages, outside of each building you had about 5 army people with machine guns. You go down the lift to go to the common area. There's 5 machine guns standing at the bottom, right? And then once you leave the village, every corner for 20 kilometers, you've got turrets and army, and I'm like, oh, so they take security pretty, pretty serious. Anyway, I thought, well, just got, you've got to take the risk. Great risk, great reward. No risk, no reward. Safe life, calm, slightly boring, right? So we took the traditional gear and we put it under our shirts. So we went in as normal, right? We had like a button-up shirt and the tupenu and all this, and we put it in, and we're walking like looking a little bit overweight with the things under our shirts. And then we get up to the security, and you're putting all of your items through, and then they look at us. The security, he's got this gun hanging from his shoulder, and he looks at me, and he's like, points. And he just he could see the big square and the bags and of stuff. We're not allowed to take bags in. There's foreign dignitaries in the audience, and you have the leaders of all countries there. What are these guys bringing in? So I pulled it out, and I was like, there's no way this guy's stopping me now. I pulled it out. He looks at it, and I said, tradition, culture, tradition, culture, Tonga. And I just kept walking, right? He's staring at me. He's trying to stop me. There's 3 other security guards trying to stop me. But the opening ceremony is getting closer and closer, and there's hundreds of other athletes lining up behind me to go through security. And so I just projected confidence. It's just like, no, I'm meant to be here. Yeah. Of course, it's been approved. Yeah, definitely. I just walked through. And so we walked on through. And so we get there. And then my coach said, okay, we're going to wait until they go through the letters A, B, C, each country, Australia. And when we get to about L, then we'll pull out the costume, quickly put it on. No one has it. It's too late then, right? So the officials can't stop us. So we get to L, quickly duck out the back. Like we're there at the back.
Is your heart just racing as you're doing this?
I found it exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was doing something I thought was right. I had, at that stage, I had no idea what some of this was, what it would mean to other people. To me, it was just like in Tonga, you go for a traditional dance, put on all the gear, and then we kind of walked up to the group, and they looked at us, and we're like, "Let's go, guys!" And again, projected they were shocked, right? Because we weren't wearing the gear, and at this, they didn't know what to say, but it's too late. You've already been announced as the flag bearer. You can't change that, right? Once you're there, you're there. The person's already come put the flag in your hand. It's like, let's go. And then we just kept walking, right? Because no one's going to cause a scene. You don't want to be. So we walked out, and it's about 1 kilometer from the secondary stadium to the main stadium. So you're walking along these tunnels and on the roads, and there's people lining it. And something was different this time. There was people everywhere, like just taking photos. And I had never had that exposure to anything before. And I felt a little bit, oh, something's up, right? Like something's up. And at this stage, the officials were seeing this as well, and they were getting in the mood. Like I think they were enjoying it probably a little bit more than I was. I wouldn't say that I was overly loving it. It was more that I was just a bit excited to be marching at the Olympics.
Did you feel out of your body, or did things slow down? Things
slowed right down. I had probably the most surreal moment just before we went to step out. So there's a big black curtain, and you don't know the size of the stadium or who's in there until they say Tonga, and then you step through. The curtain moves aside, and then it shuts behind your team. And I stepped out, and there were hundreds of thousands of people, and the lights just hit you because you're walking in sort of half dark at the back. The lights hit you, the people, and they. And there was kind of like this.
Actually, I remember if you're watching this on YouTube, Peter's like, his eyes are just, are raised. And I think I remember seeing that in the footage. Like there was a moment where you're like, oh, like I could sense the overwhelm and what is this?
Well, because I had never experienced that level of anything before.
No. Right? And many of us won't in our lives.
And I think there's probably a lot of athletes who probably had a similar experience. Like it wasn't that it had anything to do with the flag or the traditional dress. It's just that moment you step out after a lifetime of trying to be an Olympian. And then it's that first step out into the stadium of an opening ceremony. That's when it all goes, boom, click. I'm an Olympian. And everyone's here for me, right? You think it's for me, but it's also for them. And everyone thinks the same thing. And I walk through and I just kind of I saw this big camera there. I was like, as in, this is my excitement. And that ends up like, and then that ended up being a big thing, and we walked on through, and then within a few minutes, people are coming up to me, athletes, and they're saying, "Do you know you're trending on every major social platform?" I said, "What does trending mean?" Like that was the level of my naivety to what social media was, what that whole life was. I said, "What's trending?" They said, "Everyone's talking about you on Twitter, on whatever." I didn't even have a Twitter at this stage, right?
You didn't have Twitter at that stage?
No, I'd only just gotten Instagram. So it turns out someone created a Twitter for me. It wasn't me. They then had it verified somehow. I don't know. It got a blue tick. And someone was turned into me for a couple of years until I kind of went, oh, better go and do something about that. And went and had Twitter, shut it down. So I missed out on all those Twitter people. But yeah, surreal moment.
Thank you for taking us there. I think you told that story in such a beautiful way. I didn't know that there were machine guns. And I think what's interesting, it reminded me of a story I heard on a podcast. There's a guy that I follow called Don Miller, and he talks about a friend, Bob Goff. They were in some Texas or some state in America, and there was a movie being shot, and they just wanted to see what was going on. So they just grabbed a couple of electrical cables and just walked into where the movie was filming, and everyone was like, yep, but they're meant to be here, right? Because it's like, as you spoke about, just walking with confidence. When everything though is going, like if I was to see machine guns, and you're right, like we see authority and we're so brought up, like we both went to a private, like Lutheran school where we're taught to toe the line and make sure that you follow the rules. So in your life, you spoke about being an Olympian required you to think differently. What really brought that about for you?
So I wanted to be an Olympian since I was 11, 12. And I tried every year. So I tried for the 2004 Olympics, which I believe was Athens. I had no money to go to the Olympic qualifiers, which were over in Thailand. 2008, and we're talking 4-year cycles here. It's not like you can try, fail, and try again. It's like you try, you fail, you wait 4 years, and then you try again. And then if you fail again, you wait another 4 years. So now we're on 8, right? So I get to the 2008 Olympic qualifiers, make it to the final. And then in Oceania, what people don't realize is that you have to be number 1 in the Oceania region to qualify your country. You can't be number 1 in Tonga. You can't be number 1 in Australia. I have to beat Australia. I have to beat New Zealand. I have to beat Papua New Guinea. I have to beat all the islands, Samoa, etc. And so there's only one spot for the Oceania region. And if you get silver, you go home, right? That's the line. 2008, I make it to the final. I'm winning, and then the guy kicks, and I kick at the same time, and our legs hit. And I broke a bone and did my ankle. And I kept fighting him for 2 more rounds, and then he ends up winning because I can't walk. I then go home with a silver. And I had wanted this so badly, since I was a kid. This is 2008, 2004. I was training for it, couldn't afford to go. 2008. This happens. I get silver. And that was my first real experience of real disappointment.
Yeah.
Dream level disappointment. Yeah. Because not only did you miss out on your dream, which I probably could have dealt with, but I can't walk. My coach pushed me on wheelchair to the aeroplane in New Caledonia. So you're now missing the exercise gives you endorphins, makes you feel good, etc. I couldn't even walk, and my dream was destroyed. So it took me a couple of months laying in bed. Was I depressed? I don't think so. I think I was laying in bed because I couldn't move. Mixed with that at the same time, and it takes you to a place where you've really got to question what you're made of. And after a couple of months of just being incapacitated, starting to get onto the crutches, I went, you know what? From here on in, for the rest of my life, I'm going to look at disappointment differently, and I'm never going to spend more than one day. I give myself 1 day maximum when I fail at something. And now I've kind of got it to a point where it's maybe an hour or 2. Sometimes I laugh as I'm failing. So that's 2008, silver. I then go to 2012, 4 years later, make it to the final.
What is going through your mind before this final?
I had gone to the World Championships 8 weeks before that final to try and qualify. Because if you get top 3 in the world, you can qualify. 8 weeks before the final, tear my knee ligament. And you have to remember, this is your life dream. So it's not like I'm going to go and not do this. I want to go and I have no choice. So I had 6, actually it was about 6 weeks. I make it to the final again and again in New Caledonia. My knee was strapped to high heaven. We had so much strapping tape on that knee. And I could only kick with one leg. I'm going into a taekwondo tournament.
With one leg.
With one leg against the guy that had beaten me before, right? Beaten me twice before. I walk in, I'm winning. And then his coach tells him something after the first round. And he changes his stance. And I went, oh no. I could tell straight away that. So they'd figured out I was only kicking with the one leg after the first round. Got a silver medal. 2008, silver medal. 2012, silver medal. Miss out on the Olympics again. That night, I went back to the room with my coach. And we sat there. And he said, brother, it's okay to be upset. I said, no, I was upset in 2008. I was upset when I lost the match. Let's go for dinner. Let's go and be happy. Right? This is a few hours after. I said, I'll give myself tonight. We'll go get some food that we probably shouldn't eat. We'll have all the tasty food. And then, so we went out, had dinner, and by the next morning I was good again. And I said to myself, what's next? What's next? What can I do next? And I didn't stay in that space. I learned from 2008. I was true to my word that I would never stay in a space of being depressed or upset or over something which I had given everything for. And that's what made me happy was there was no more I could have done.
Can I ask you a quick question just there? Some people, including myself, I'm sure I've done it, where we'll say, oh, this job, it's frustrating me, but I'll give it a year and I'll see how things go. So we'll put our own time constraints on it. With the Olympics, that's very real. Like you said, every 4 years. Yes. Did you think I'm going for 2016 and that's like the go, no-go date? Or what was it? Like how did you pull yourself up after that?
To me, and I think everyone has this.
Yeah.
And if I can give this across to the listeners as some sort of a gift, is that for me there was no date on it. I knew from the moment that I decided to be an Olympian at the age of 12 that I was going to be an Olympian. It was, and it probably falls into relationships as well. And maybe that's somewhere you want to go with this interview or not, because I think it kind of defines people as well. Is people won't understand. People won't see your dream, right? No one will see it as clear as you will see it. And to me, I knew it. I knew I was going to be an Olympian. 4 years, less than ideal, having to wait another 4 for another shot. But it was a matter of time. If I threw enough punches, one was going to land, right? One was going to land. And which then took us to 2016, which was a whole whole other story. But most certainly, everyone has something in them which they believe in, and which they have to be okay with the fact that other people won't see it, but they got to keep going anyway.
That's hard. And so I think that relates to something I wanted to ask you, because you're talking about this dream and this conviction of being an Olympian. And that's like really, I guess that's associated with your identity. So you're like, what does an Olympian do? They train every day, they punch, they kick, they get fit, they eat well, all that sort of stuff that you were doing. Yet a lot of time we then, let's just say we have a dream, but then we're looking around and we're seeing evidence that maybe we're not there yet. And we can get crushed by what other people are telling us, and maybe it's not possible. And maybe the people that we surround ourselves with aren't living that way or doing that thing. How are you able to sort of cast that aside, cast the evidence aside of what's happening today and play for that dream?
You have to be careful about the people we keep around us as well. I mean, that's certainly a strong element of it is remove people.
Did you do that?
100%.
Wow.
100%. Probably more so in relationships.
Yeah.
More so in relationships, because friends, they kind of let you do good friends just kind of let you do your thing. And then when you fail, they're like, well, that didn't go to plan. That's when you want to go fishing, right? Like that's what a true friend is, not you should, even I try to be this myself to my friends. If they fail at something, I have to be very careful of the language I give them, right? Rather than, oh, maybe you should, you're getting too old for that. I'm like, oh man, that didn't go to plan. What's next? What?
Yes.
What are we going to do differently?
Yeah.
So what was the original question? I kind of went off on a tangent.
Yeah, my question was you're getting this, so you're accumulating evidence. There's 3 years now where you've been unsuccessful. You want to be an Olympian.
12 years.
How do you, 12? Okay. Like, how do you cast that aside? Because I think there's moments every day where we can get defeated, and you've got 2 choices, right? One, you pick yourself up and keep going. The other is you take that into consideration and go, right, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I try something else. Did you ever have a pivot point where, I mean, it sounds like you didn't, this was your goal, but how are you able to discard like the evidence and everything else, what people are saying, and then just go all in?
evidence. I think it really comes down to how you view evidence as well. Like, your internal evidence has to be stronger than your external evidence. And your internal evidence is your conviction. I mean, there's a reality aspect. So say you have, I'm not very politically correct, but say you have a midget who wants to be the NBA star, right? Like there are physical limitations or restrictions. But then even if I was his friend, who am I to tell him that he can't, right? What kind of friend would I be? But so other than that, I always saw it as if someone else has done it, what makes them so special? Like, I love that they've done it, but why can't I? Why can't you? Why can't any of us?
Love that.
Evidence. Stack the evidence in your favor. It's what we all do now when we're watching media, right? We choose a side, one way or another, and then we kind of blind ourselves. We have a bit of cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Blind ourselves to some of the realities. And I try not to be that, but I also am aware that there's probably an element of that happens to me as well. So it's about conviction. But everyone is, when I say Olympian, I wanted to be an Olympian. What I'm saying is that you also have an Olympian version of yourself in you. It might not be called an Olympian. It might be called whatever it is that you want to achieve or anyone else wants to achieve. And it's there, and it just has to be. You have to water that. You have to water that seed.
Love it. The funny thing, you're talking about the internal conviction, and when you dropped over, you saw my Peloton bike, and I'm like, hey, do you have a Peloton? And you said, no, I have internal motivation. And we sort of giggled. And it was like, I'm outsourcing my motivation to the bike just to try to create a system that to create the motivation and to stack the evidence. So it sort of all links in. Moving on from the Olympics and your year, you've mentioned that you have an annual goal setting process. And I was wondering if you could share what your process is with listeners and let us know, like, sure, you can have a process, but then life hits you with certain things. And it certainly did for you this year with your home country, Tonga. Can you share a bit about your process and then how you've managed to weave it in with what's going on in the world for you?
Sure. So I was doing an experience on Airbnb. They were
Airbnb experiences.
Yeah, so they're
great.
They're a sponsor of mine, and as an athlete, we have some good stuff going on, and I put forward an experience, and what that was actually taking what I do with my goal setting, and then doing it like monthly goal setting.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll just run people through the process. I don't want to. I think knowledge should be shared, right? So at the start of each year, I never have a 1st of January goal. What I have is I don't actually write my yearly goals until the end of January. And this isn't, when I say all this stuff, it's not the right way. It's a way. Choose the right way for yourself. And the reasoning behind that is that most people start a goal too high. When I say too high, I don't mean they shouldn't have high goals. In fact, I'm actually a strong advocate for it. What I'm saying is that you have to ramp up towards your goal. You can't have not exercised for 10 years and then, I'm going to hit the gym. That's it. This is the day. And then you smash everything down. You walk into the gym, you're lifting 20 kilogram dumbbells, and then you tear your bicep, and then you're now in depression, right? You have to ramp up into everything. As an athlete who trains how many hours a day during on-season, when I have an off-season, I don't go and do what half the people are doing when they try to get to the gym. I ramp up. I start at this end of the dumbbells, and then I go to that end. So the first thing is I use January as a ramp-up period. I say I'm going to give myself the month, and I'm going to really sit there and think about it. I'm not going to be a little bit excited because it's Christmas and it's the new year and all that partying is happening. I'm not just going to wake up on the first and create a goal which I have no real understanding about, right? Just because I'm
and everyone else is doing it.
I want to I'm going to spend the month thinking about what my limitations are, firstly. When I say my limitations, I mean not where I want to go so much as what has stopped me from, why aren't I already there? Why didn't I have that last year or the year before? I think people want to see what they are capable of, and they want someone else to go in first, right? So I'm someone who's when I say I've gone in first, I mean there's many other people who've gone in first, but we've kind of tested the waters, and I think people they want to get a little bit of inspiration from seeing someone do something that's difficult and then not dying in the process.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
You're like the guinea pig, but kind of like Tim Ferriss.
There's a lot of guinea pigs, and we're all guinea pigs to some degree. So 1st of Jan. So going back, January, I set the process. And I go deep on myself, right? Like, why don't I have it already? Like, what are the mental barriers? What are the physical barriers? Where is a dragon in my life that I don't want to look at? So I've got to be. So when I give these speeches, I've spoken at the United Nations, I spoke at MIT, and I spoke about the dragon that we all have. And another way to put,
you're a big Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah,
the dragon.
In Bruce Lee's speech, the dragon is actually positive. In this speech, it's more the thing that guards the gold, and we want the gold in our life, right? The
love that.
The joy. But I have to be careful, and I can be open during this podcast and during this discussion. When I talk to people, and I worked in homeless shelters for 15 years, I understand that when you talk about things like depression, anxiety, barriers, people's demons will do anything possible to have them not hear the truth that they need to hear about themselves. Why? Because we kind of already know the truth. We just don't want to hear it, right? And then, who the hell are you to come and tell me the truth that I have suppressed from myself? I hide that from myself, right? I don't want to face that. Why? Who are you to come? So then people can get angry at you when you present truth. The dragon doesn't like to be disturbed. He wants to just lay on that pot of gold.
Yeah.
So then I had to be careful about the language that I use, and then I reached a point where being careful also meant being insincere. Or being over careful. There's still smart ways to word things that you don't make people want to go and hurt themselves because you expose the truth that they already know. But I say this because my process is about unbearing my truth. I have so many things inside me which hold me back. What are they? Turn into the cave, go head first.
You do. You still do.
Everyone does. I've when I say I still do, I mean I've worked on
for years, yeah.
For years, yeah. And I'm at a very happy place.
Yeah,
right? I'm at a place where the dragon's like,
they're a challenge. Yeah.
We've had this battle many a time, and I always come out on top.
That's super cool. Yeah.
But I want people to face their dragons because it's the only way through is through the fear, right? But then I can't say to someone, this is what's wrong with you. You need to go and face that dragon, but then not arm them with a tool. I got to give them a sword, right? I got to have a sword myself when I'm going to go and battle the things inside me which are holding me back. And so that's where education comes in. Okay, I don't know what this dragon's going to look like, but I have a couple of tools. Let's see if they work. You go in, you fight the dragon, you come out partially scorched. Okay, that tool didn't work. What other tools do I have? Go back. Okay, I got to win. right? And then over time, you build up your resilience to the to the dragon or to the thing that holds you back, and you reach a point where you're not scared of anything when it comes to something about yourself. Wow. And I think that is what true vulnerability is saying that you've gone to battle with yourself, or with the parts of yourself which have held you back, or make you feel sad, or make you feel miserable, or make you not achieve the goal that you want to achieve, or anything that takes something from you that doesn't bring joy. You've gone to battle with enough times where you're just like, what's the word? Unwithable, right?
Yeah. You can say it.
United Nations Ambassador.
Yes.
But no, I think there's sometimes people don't want to hear this. They want to be. Sometimes they just want a shoulder to cry on, and I understand that personality-wise, I'm not always that person for them. And when you go through something in life, you have to know which friends or which mentors are needed at what time. I'm the mentor that I'll give them a bit of empathy for a period of time. But we also need a solution so that we're not sitting in the same position,
Yeah, that's it.
for 10 years in a row, because your time is precious. All of our time is precious. And if I have a friend who's still in the same position, then I have to question my knowledge. What is it? Maybe I'm not doing something right, and I don't want to be questioning myself all the time. Maybe it's just them. And they are a reflection of me. When I say them, I'm like, that's me at some stage as well, right? So I don't want to be an asshole to people, but we've got to fight our dragons.
And what's interesting in what you're talking about is it's our own dragons. We're not fighting or competing against anyone else. It's really just against ourselves 100%. And getting past that. I think sometimes when I go to goal setting or looking at what I want to achieve, automatically I sometimes will put a filter on it. Like, I want to do this. Oh, that's not possible. Oh, but what you said earlier is that, well, the fact that someone else has done it just shows you that it is possible. And if they're to do it, who's to say that you can't do it?
100%.
Yeah. But it's just recognizing that and breaking your own pattern of thinking.
Yeah, and I think if there's a skill that would really benefit listeners, it's put your effort into self-reflection, right? Like, don't be scared to look at yourself through the lens of zooming out. So I've been good my whole life at zooming right out. So if there's a little problem, this tea you made me, it had too much sugar, it had too much milk, or it had too much tea, or the cup's too tall, or the cup's too... None of that means anything. I'll go to a cafe, I'll order a coffee, and they'll bring me a tea. And I got two options. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, can I have the coffee? Or sometimes I'll just be like, today's a tea day, right?
The universe is sending me tea today.
The universe is sending me tea today. I'm not going to spread negativity. I'm going to zoom right out, and I'm going to look at my life from the perspective that I'm in the infiniteness of the universe, looking in. Does this matter? No. Does that matter? No. Do the things that we complain about matter? Probably not. Yet they're so real to us. And they give us so much pain, but in reality, the majority of things are so small.
I know. We're particularly looking now, now that we are in this sort of connected world, we can see what's happening in overseas in places like Ukraine and in Tonga. What happened earlier this year? Can you share what actually happened in Tonga if listeners aren't sure of the natural disaster that occurred over there, and then how you quickly mobilized to help out with using your influence to do that? That was really impressive.
So Tonga at the start of the year, so I had this goal setting process, and I was kind of in the middle of it. Then in the middle of January, I get these messages: "Are you okay? What's happening? And is everyone okay?" And I check social media because that's kind of I kind of probably get more of my news from social media than from news agencies. And I saw that so there was a tsunami hit Tonga after a volcanic eruption, and this huge cloud of ash just covered the whole island, and then all comms went off. No one could. So we had no idea. And I've worked in with the United Nations. I work for UNICEF as a Goodwill Ambassador. And I know that there's a period of time where we have to maximize to get help. That period of time is about 72 hours. You have about 3 days from when a disaster hits, from when you, as to how long, that's the period of time that you have to maximize the assistance you can get to help that country. Because that's the news cycle, right? So I thought, all comms are off. I saw images of houses getting destroyed by the tsunami. I don't know what the damage is going to be. I need to get into gear. I need to get into gear. I have to be ready for when everything is back to normal, or not back to normal. When communication is back to normal, so we can see. And so I set up a GoFundMe. Within 2 or 3 days, we raised $250,000.
Amazing. Well done. Congratulations.
Cool,
that's
right?
phenomenal. Yes.
And I had a target of $1 million. And I kept getting asked the question, why was your target $1 million? I said, $1 million was an arbitrary number, but it represented the cost to rebuild a wing of a hospital or a school building or something like this. And that would be my contribution, right? That would be where I could help.
Yeah.
So it's just an arbitrary number, because at first I was going to put a target of 50,000. And I'm going to talk about the numbers, because the numbers represent how I think.
Like you're anchoring.
Yeah. So you have these numbers. And when you're doing a fundraiser, the lower the number, the higher the chance of it getting hit, right? So you set like a target of 50,000. Yeah. And I said, no, my whole life has been about setting goals which are unrealistic and then falling short of them, but still falling in the realm.
Yes.
Right? So I set a goal for $1 million. We've raised over $1 million Tongan dollars, but we've raised, I think, it's around just under $900,000 Australian. And that represented to me setting a goal, falling short of it, but it was an impossible goal, right? And I think we all have impossible goals, big goals, which don't make sense, where we have the people outside saying, that's too big. People won't donate to you $5 because they think it won't make a dent. Like that. That's the fear that I say. No, we can help people if we have more to help people with. Aim high. I then did 113 interviews in just under 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Every news outlet. Turns out every news outlet has multiple parts of that outlet, right?
So the interview would have been like repurposed over 1,000 times.
They have different, so say you have BBC, you have BBC World, you got BBC in Australia, you got BBC, and so you're getting messages and calls from different people, and so you're doing repeating the same questions, the same interviews. But I thought, I have to get exposure out to this, because I need to bring awareness. I need to get the funds ready. We need to be ready when the communications come up. What's their need going to be? We've got to help the people. And it was 2 weeks without communications. I got my father had disappeared. No one had heard from him. I couldn't even contact them to see if they'd heard from him.
So not only are you trying to do this work and provide support, you at a personal level have no idea what's going on with your family.
Our homes, we have a home in the outer islands, 40 kilometers from that volcano. The volcano that spread halfway across the world, on the water, and our home in the mainland is also on the water. And my father, 70 plus years old, living there by himself. But there's no choice, right? When you get called to action, when you get called to do something, that something sometimes is bigger than yourself. So I have to park my personal worry, and me worrying doesn't help anyone. So it's like, okay, park that, just pray. If my father's okay, good. If the good Lord took him up to heaven above, good. He's the boss, right? He's in charge, not me. So that's how my mentality was. But I need to help. There's going to be people that need help. This is what I can do. Raise the money. And so far we have, which is fantastic. We've sent like, what was it? Almost 500,000 kilograms of food.
That's crazy.
Containers, we've almost there. We still have a bit to go. Replaced 10% of all the boats that were destroyed. You're talking like every boat in the islands were destroyed, and boats aren't a recreational product.
It's survival.
It's survival.
Yeah.
It's your car. You can't get to hospital if you're stuck on an island, right? So we replaced close to 10% of the boats. We've sent school equipment. It's just been...
I listen to this and I look at you and I'm like, oh my gosh, Leanne, I need to step up and start doing more.
The universe calls you to step up. And it's easy. Like, it's easy not to... The easy option...
is to not accept the call.
Is not to accept it.
Yeah.
The money, that amount of money is a blessing, but it's also a burden. Right? And the burden of it is that now you're responsible. Now you're responsible for smartly. I can't even say smartly properly. How can this guy go? For effectively using that money to help people. Right? And that means that the last 2 months I've been doing something which I don't love. Just
allocating,
doing the paperwork, the emails, and I've got a small team that helps me as well. But it's like I need to be training.
This is taking me away.
Yeah. But sometimes we're called to do something which pulls us away. We have no choice.
Amazing. Pete, I've got a couple, just the rapid round before we wrap up this conversation. I mean, this could be total Joe Rogan style, and I could just chew your...
You go on as long as you need to help the listeners. Today's your day.
That's all right. Actually, I will ask you, my husband wanted me to ask you this. When you were training for the Olympics, or even now, I mean, now that you're not training for any Olympic Games right now, right? Or
I'm in off-season now.
What does off-season look like in terms of your workouts and routine?
Okay, so I'm in off season.
Okay.
also known as Big Mac season.
That's great to know. Yay, he's human.
Yeah, no. I every so often I frequent fast food, but I know that there's a price to pay for everything, but I'm willing to pay the price. If I eat this, I know I'm going to go for a longer walk the next morning. I'll make up for it, right?
Yeah, good.
There's no unbalance. But in the off season, when I'm completely away from focused training, I always have a fallback training option. And the fallback is what we do when everything is going not wrong, not when everything's going wrong, but when we don't want to do anything. And I have a 15 minutes a day. That's it. In the off season. And I'll alternate between 3 exercises. Pull-ups, one day, 15 minutes. Next day, push-up, 15 minutes. It's amazing. 15 minutes of push-ups is a lot, right? And
that's a lot.
You just rest and you keep going.
Yeah.
And the next day, lunges.
Okay.
Right? So that's my worst days.
Yeah.
And that's only 15 minutes a day. If you don't have 15 minutes a day for that, you may have to rethink what it is that you're being busy with, and then throw into that maybe a walk every morning, and then I ramp up into on season, and then that can look like 1 session a day to 2 sessions a day to 3 sessions a day, coming closer and closer to competition. But I think it's important for people to always have a fallback option.
Yeah, I like that.
Which we don't have. We're like, our fallback option is lay in bed and
is
watch
do
Netflix.
nothing.
Yeah, do nothing.
And then I'll eat crap as well. You know what I mean? Like it's like a perpetuating.
Double dose of bad.
Totally,
right?
yeah.
So I think it's good for people to have a fallback option.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Haven't really heard that before, having a fallback option. And now I need to think of mine would be probably just a 15-minute run, or I don't even think I could do a minute of pull-ups yet. So maybe it's working up to like 10 minutes of pull-ups, assisted pull-ups.
When I say that, there's a caveat to those exercises. And I think this is important in terms of exercise motivation for people. And there's a lot of people who are probably interested in exercise motivation. And the caveat is this, is that, when I'm telling people, they say, should I do, I don't want to do squats, so I don't want to do bench press, so I don't want to do, these are the things I don't want to do. I listen to these motivators and they say, you have to do that. You have to do the hardest thing. And I don't necessarily agree. Actually, I don't agree. My opinion is that when it comes to exercise, you have to do something. Full stop. You have to do something.
So
and you have to do something consistently. If squats stops you from going to the gym because you don't love them, don't do squats, right? Even though you need them, right? Those legs of yours need some squats, or that chest of yours needs to be worked on, or that your lung capacity is not so good, so you should run. What's more important than what you should do is you doing something consistently. Choose what you like first. Then when you can do that consistently, add in something else. And then if you can't, and then you add in. And then if you can't do that consistently, go back to the one before. You can't do that consistently, go back to the one before. 15 minutes, if that's too much for you, do 5. Do 2, do 1. Work your way down until there's a number that you can do, or a thing that you can do consistently.
Yeah.
Because exercise isn't about building muscle or about building cardiovascular fitness. It's about building a consistency habit. And it's about doing it with simple things first. I do it as well.
That's so
when
good.
I go back into on season, I'm not going to go and smash it.
Okay.
Because I'll hate it, right? I have to do it slowly. Okay, now my body is ready for the bigger things.
Yeah.
We go back, and that's going back to the question before about starting the new year. Your motivation is new year, new me. Motivation's through the roof. Guess where the body is? Here. Body's here. Motivation's there. There's a big gap. To bridge that gap, we end up with 30th, how many days in January? 30, 31, whatever it is.
31, yeah.
First day of February, we've already lost our goals.
Yeah.
Because we tried too much too soon.
And that's the thing. And then the self-talk is like, oh, I can't do this. Why should I even try, right? You know what I mean?
And you're out for the year.
Exactly. So I really like this, just doing the, it kind of reminds me, my friend Sean D'Souza talks about, this is in the context of content marketing, like spinning plates. He's like, just try one medium, get good on YouTube, just do YouTube for a year. Then once you got the systems, then you can add a podcast, and then you start spinning these plates. You just keep spinning one at a time.
Yeah, until you see how many you can.
Exactly. And then you've got 10
plates.
Exactly. And then you're like, well, how did you do that? And as you said, it just starts from like just getting the basics right and building that consistency.
100%. And the other element to add into that is that when you build, so the consistency is much more important. The habit is much more important than the actual exercise. What exercise program do I need to go and buy? How many hours a day should I do it? Like, it actually doesn't matter. The majority of exercise programs from any kind of exercise person is probably good. It'll probably get you where you want to go, but you're not going to get there because you're not doing it, right? So what is it that you will be doing? What is it that you can, in your current capacity, can be doing? Is it just putting on your shoes every morning, walking out and getting the letters from the letterbox? If that's all you can do that.
Yes.
Like, that's how small we have to break it down before we build it back up.
Yeah.
And then once upon a time, I could do 3 2-hour sessions a day. Well, I can't do that at the moment. Oh, so should I feel depressed that I'm not what I was? No, I'll start at 1 15-minute session. And then what happens is we end up building, what's the word? Inertia, momentum, right? And it turns out that YouTube session that you were talking about, just do YouTube for a year. And then at the end of the year, you probably find that you can now...
It's quicker.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everything else just comes within the first month. All of that because of that consistency habit that you created.
Yeah. And also remembering that a lot of the skills we learn aren't in isolation. Like I remember when I started my original podcast, like I did 10 episodes and I will not listen back to them. People still are listening to them, but I was a very bad interviewer. I was very scripted and trying to get it perfect. And my voice it was just a disaster. But I think as I got better at interviewing people, then I got better at facilitating workshops because it's a similar skill set, got better at listening. It's like, you're stacking, like through that habit creation, you're just stacking all these skills that you've got no idea about until you start. And you can't think your way through it. You actually have to go through it. As you said, the only way through is through.
100%.
Yeah.
And the formula is, it's not repetitive. The formula you use to get good at exercise is the formula you use to get good at podcasts. Formula for podcasts is that the formula you use to get good at exercise. And it's a little bit ad nauseum because it's like you want to bring in someone and they give you some magic insight that where you just go, huh. But I think where you get that magic insight, where you get that crumb that you never saw before is in the delivery of something. Someone delivers the same thing because the formula is the same. It doesn't matter what motivational speaker. Some will say do the hardest thing first thing in the morning. Some will say I'm more of a ramp up into it. There is no right way. There's only the right way for you. And that I think it's about getting across. When I talk, I just want to give a different perspective of the same thing. It's all the same thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's all the
it
same
actually
thing.
is all the same thing.
Yeah. And there's a reason for it. 'Cause it works because it's been reproduced. I can't tell you how to build a bicep without doing a bicep curl. Yeah. How many people can you bring in to tell you how to? It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Right? What's different with exercise and where I want to, it's probably an area where I'm moving, I'll probably move towards that once I have a little bit more time, is the psychology of getting people off the couch. The exercise itself, people say, you go and train them, give them a program, give them an exercise program. I'm like, most people's problem isn't the program. It's just getting their ass to do something. Yeah. And it's easy to say that, right? Get your ass up and do it. But they're not doing it. In mass, people aren't doing it. That's the magic. That's where I believe the magic is getting them from wherever it is that they're sitting, get from those Pringles in bed, those Doritos, from there to wherever it is that they need to be. That gap. Once they're there, let the trainers deal with that.
Yeah.
This is all the psychology stuff.
Yeah.
This is all the mental stuff. I think that's where I'm heading towards.
For your passion. I was going to ask you about your future, and it sounds like that's the zone. And I think you can absolutely serve in such a great way in helping people. And it's funny, like we talk about stacking it, and you said the exercise is like the core foundation. Like, and I totally find there's some days where I'm really productive and I've started off the day with exercise and I feel really good. Other days where I've just like gone from my bed straight to the computer, and then like mid-morning I'm like, I've got no energy. Like, how I'm going to get through today? And it's just because I haven't been outside, I haven't connected with my breath or anything like that. So for me, it's the sun. Yeah, because you follow Andrew Huberman. He talks about. You need to get like 10 minutes of sunshine. Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, that's like the like top high performance sort of stuff. But as you said, it really just starts with that basic pattern of what will it take you and get all this advice, but what is actually going to resonate with you the most and how can you optimize for yourself?
Take that and put that in your pocket.
Yeah. That's good.
There's a thing around that which is very important. And that's the idea of failing happy.
I don't like that word. Failing happy.
I use fail happy.
Wow.
Fail to me just means not achieving something that you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, fail happy.
And there's other language. It's a game of semantics, right? We can call it I don't fail, I learn, etc., etc. But I use the words failing happy, which means that, okay, I didn't get it this morning. I woke up at this time. I didn't get out. I didn't get the sunshine. I'm a failure, or I'm this, or I'm that. And it's like each day is a reset, right? You have the opportunity every single day, which is the blessing that we've been given to try again. And my failings, or the times where I didn't get what I wanted, they end up on newspaper headline, right? I go to the Kayak World Championships after 2 weeks in a kayak, and I come into the starting line. The wind's pushing me. I drift out of the starting lane. This is everyone. I can't wait. I don't know if you saw the video, right? Play it on this thing.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Like
it's
like the most embarrassing
So you're at the
thing.
start line in the kayaks.
I'm
going
in Hungary.
Across. Oh my God.
I come into the thing. The kayak's being drifted off.
Oh, no.
And I went on Good Morning. Was it Good Morning America? I went to New York and announced it. I'm going to be a kayaker. 3 sports for the Olympics. Went in. Everyone's waiting with the news camera things. I come in. First race after 2 weeks on a kayak. They even put me in a fishing kayak because they saw I was that bad. Come into the start line. Wind drifts me around. Or everyone in the stadiums. I think, oh, shit, this isn't going to plan. I come back in and I pedal back in. I come into the starting gate and I start drifting again. And they couldn't wait. On marks, get set, go. I'm facing into the audience. Everyone's going this way. And I'm facing the audience. So they went home, they made a coffee, they had breakfast, and I'm still like slowly paddling on my big kayak.
Was your face red? Like, did you, what the heck?
Like, what goes through your head, right? So when I talk about external validation, that's what I'm talking about. I get to the finish line and I try to sneak my way back to the kayak, put my kayak away.
Yeah, head down. Yeah.
And then I hear this call, lane 8 to media. Oh. I get off, I paddle up to the media station. They put a microphone in my face. Peter, you must feel devastated, right? Emphasis of failure.
Yeah.
You must feel devastated that, with your performance today. And I went, on the contrary, I couldn't be happier. They said, why? I said, I got a new PB. They said, but you've never raced before. I said, yeah, well, that's why it's a new PB. And I said, on top of that, I got a national record. They said, but Tonga's never raced in professional kayaking before. I said, yeah, that's why I got a national record. Couldn't be happier. Can only get better from here.
Amazing.
Ends up being the title of the...
That is amazing. I love that attitude. I wish we could, I shouldn't say, I just wish you could, with Bluetooth, you can send people things, or you can airdrop photos. And I wish you could airdrop that attitude to all of us. You're doing it right now through this podcast.
I would love everyone to
that's
be
so
okay
cool.
with being. That's why we're not doing things, is because we're scared. You're scared what your mum's going to say. You're scared what your friends are going to say. You're scared that your partner's going to look at you differently. I don't care.
It's so refreshing.
And the reason I don't care isn't because I don't want to achieve a goal. It's because internally you fought that dragon enough times that if you fight a dragon internally, it doesn't matter what Bob or Suzanne says. They can say you're the worst kayaker in the world, and you're like,
who are you? Who's Bob?
Probably second worst, but yeah, probably close, right? It doesn't.
Water off duck's back.
Yeah, how you frame things is more important than letting the world frame them for you.
That's why I love it's all up to us. Peter, I'm going to take you through the rapid round now.
Hit me.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Did you want
to meditate?
So quick questions. I ask all my guests these questions. What is a book that shaped the way that you think?
As a Man Thinketh.
Thank you. What's a favourite app or tool that you think we should all download immediately?
I think we should download less apps and use our telephone less.
Totally agree. I might delete that. A few of my guests have actually said don't download anything. Like, just I was like, I might replace that question.
Yeah, but it's our phone was meant to liberate us, but sometimes it's our jailer as well.
It is our jailer. What's a song that gets you fired up?
Actually, if people listen to what I'm listening to in the gym, they would think that there's something wrong with me, right? I'm there lifting and smashing and kicking, and I probably got a country music song.
I love country music.
There's probably a Disney song in there somewhere, right? Anything that elicits emotion from me, or that takes me to a place that has some sort of emotion, like childhood emotion, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the song is. If it elicits some emotion, that's energy. I
had a Celine Dion song in my playlist the other day when I was running,
My heart will go on, right? Is that her or Shania Twain?
Yeah. I just was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Do you have a favourite quote that you want to share with listeners?
So many. Biblical quote. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you.
Wow, that's very powerful. Peter, I thank you so much for taking the time out to come along and to share your worldly advice, your enthusiasm, your attitude. To know that you can fail happy, I think, is so reassuring. And the fact that the dragon is within us and we can conquer it. And once we do that, we're unstoppable, I think, is amazing. I'm saying thanks to you personally, but also just on behalf of the listeners as well. If our listeners want to connect with you, find out what you're up to, support your causes, where can we send them?
Well, they can head straight to my PayPal account, but short of that, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, probably more Instagram's kind of my thing at the moment. So just head across there. Pita Taufatofua at Instagram. Pita will get me there. He'll get you there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You own it. You own the 4-letter word. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well as some of the videos. I can't wait to see your kayaking experience. Again, you're a legend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're the best. Thank you so much for tuning in to Work and Live Large. I really appreciate you. If you know someone in your network and you think, oh my gosh, they've got so much potential, like I want them to live and work larger, send them this episode. I think they might appreciate it. I also appreciate hearing from you, your feedback, your thoughts, your questions, anything. You can shoot me an email, hello@leannehughes.com, or find me on LinkedIn, just search for Leanne Hughes. Stay up to date with all the episodes by heading on over to leannehughes.com/subscribe, and all the best with your week as you go around living it up.